The Blob is a horror movie classic with a climax that is up there with some of the best of all time. But being a movie from the 50s, there is a lot of process you gotta get through in order to get to the gems of enjoyment. Hello, and welcome back to the Sunny Side, a place to discuss film, television, games, all things storytelling, while being sincere, thought provoking, and always staying on the sunny side. My name is Evan B. Thank you so much for watching. Today we are on day 2 of our 5th annual Long Halloween horror movie marathon, where every night is All Hallows Eve. And tonight's presentation is The Blob. Now, as I said, the climax of The Blob is great. Even if you haven't seen this movie, you probably have heard or seen through the culture or zeitgeist this scene of all of the people rushing out of the theater and then this jelly-like substance, the blob itself, coming and oozing out everywhere, and the horror, the scares, the terror, all of this very 50s nostalgia of just sort of, the beginning of the renaissance of horror movies. If you think about the life of horror movies, you have Nosferatu in the early 1900s, and you have the 1920s and 30s with the big universal horror movies, and then that stuff sort of starts to peter out as the end of the 30s and the 40s. This is 1958. This is the beginning of the renaissance. We're about to get a huge influx in the 60s and 70s of a resurgence of horror, and this is the start of it. And so there are things to love. Of course, the actual blob itself, I think is great. This is 1958. They're using real animation. You can tell that there's puppetry and miniatures, and it's some sort of gooey substance, and whatever stop motion they're doing is excellent. It's fun. It does that thing where it's just fantastical enough but just real enough that it gets your mind there. And this, remember, is opening doors for other horror movies to do this. Now, the parts that I said are clunky. Now, of course, it's a movie from the 1950s. Steve McQueen is the star. We love Steve McQueen. He really is, of course, electric in this. But the movie is very much, feels like other movies from the 50s. You have sort of this love story, this kids versus adults, the intergenerational thing, dancing around the horror. You could say it's building up the tension, and maybe it is, but there is also, of course, this desire of us nowadays to want to see more of the horror stuff. It feels like we're getting a lot of the process, and we're waiting to get there, and we know we're going to get there, and then when we get there, it's like, and then it's over, which is a lot of fun and very cool, but you can see how horror movies evolve. But this is a great starting point, and it's a lot of fun to get back to the classics of just seeing a bunch of people in terror. Who cares if it's silly and it's fake? Watching everyone rush out of the theater like that and be all scared, that's fun. That's exciting. That's movies. That's horror. It's history, and it was a blast to watch. Well, thank you all so much for continuing along this journey with me. Stay tuned for tomorrow, and as always, stay on the sunny side.